Welcome to Sib Spot. Today's Reddit stories are from PettyRevenge. Story 1 is by Nkoji. Left a girl with an $80 bar tab after being a dissociated twit. When I was single and dating in a large major US city, I met up with a girl at a bar for drinks. After she and I met on a dating app, she expressed interest. I come from the traditional school of dating protocol, so I tend to assume that my job, as the man, is to make sure my date feels safe and has a good time, regardless of whether or not we have chemistry or it leads to things. It's like we both made the effort to get dressed up, look nice, come out, give each other a chance. If it doesn't exactly work out, you want to respect that someone accepted your invitation and tried. Except for this vapid moral monstrosity. We get a table. I try to open things up, but she sits there texting for 5 minutes while we're waiting for our order. Occasional apologies, but basically just not looking at me and attention span of a gnat. We start talking finally, and then she starts answering her buzzing phone again. I'm trying to joke about it at first, and then it just gets painfully awkward. Like, what the F are you doing? Do you even see yourself? I have value too. We get our drinks and I try to restart the conversation. I make a low-level joke about how I'm going to throw it out the window. She doesn't take the hint. I order us 2 more drinks and an appetizer and then realize I'm miserable. I down my drink and hit the loo. On my way out, the little gremlin in my head says, if she's still on her phone when you come out, you're done. She is. I look the other way and there's a service door open behind the kitchen. I turn right instead of left and exit into the sweet air of freedom. 30 minutes later, she texts, "Did you leave?" Guess I should have texted. Everyone that has a cell phone should be able to put it away for an event where they're expected to meet face to face. And yes, it's kind of silly. There's like students in high school that are texting each other and they're literally like sitting next to each other in lunch. They're not trying to do it to be private. They're texting because it's just easier to do that than talk to each other. It's hilarious how addicted to cell phones some people are. This kind of makes me think she either was just not interested in you once she met you, or that she's in a relationship and she had somebody who was angry at her for going out on a date with you. That's what I assume happened here, honestly. It doesn't make any sense to agree to go out on a date and then immediately get on your cell phone for like 20 minutes texting somebody. Like, you should turn your phone off. You're with the person you're supposed to be giving your attention to. If you don't have time for that, don't go on the date. What a waste of this person's time. Our next story is by Nuclear Family Reactor. Quote, friend used me as bait for a guy she didn't tell me she liked, made it obvious she didn't think much of me, and then was shocked when I start seeing the guy. I'm a female, and when I was 18, about a year out of high school, I started working at a restaurant with a much wealthier community than the working class one I had grown up in. I started as a hostess, then got promoted to waitstaff. After a while, I started to bond with this girl, Gretchen, who was also female 18, who was a hostess. She relied on me to vent and share all of her troubles with. Her parents were not nice, only caring about money and social status. I also started hearing about how she was having trouble with infighting and backstabbing among this friend group, many of whom also worked at this restaurant. The restaurant was a place where a lot of young people in the area hung out. I felt bad for her, but I also enjoyed her sense of humor and intellect, and we shared a lot of similar tastes in music and style, so she and I became good friends. At one point, she introduced me to this guy, Chris, who was 18, that she knew. He and I instantly had chemistry, and I could tell he was very into me. He started coming around the restaurant a lot, sitting in my section, and one day when Gretchen wasn't there, he asked for my number. It felt like all the friends I had always wanted were finally coming together, like my life was about to launch. All of these people lived in their parents' giant, opulent mansions in this very upscale town, driving luxury cars their parents gave them, while I would slink back to my broken-down Honda that I'd park in a hidden spot and drive to my family's tiny house in the working-class town with its broken-down pickup trucks and cement blocks in people's yards, feeling like an alien in both worlds. I was slightly older than some of my new friends, being a year out of high school while most of them had just graduated, but felt worlds less sophisticated than they appeared to be. Anyway, I didn't really understand why she was so eager to introduce us. Why didn't she want him for herself? He was very cute. It was only later in retrospect that I looked back on the way she introduced us and realized she was using me to bait him to come around the restaurant. So he and I started to hook up. I didn't get why he wanted to be so secret about it at first, but I'll admit he was about 10 times hotter than any guy I'd ever dated, and I let myself get swept up into a mostly physical relationship. He asked me not to tell Gretchen because he could tell she was into him, and although I thought that was silly as she had introduced us, so obviously if she ever had any romantic feelings for him, she was over it, but I reluctantly agreed. Not my proudest moment. Gretchen and I began to hang out more and more and became BFFs. We began to spend every free moment together. My secret hooking up with Chris felt more and more deceitful as I cooled it down with him a little. But I was young and didn't know how to handle this situation, and I'm sure I did everything wrong. I thought that I was beginning to fall in love with Chris, but didn't like it being a secret hookup, so just let it continue half in secret. I'll admit this wasn't smart or good. After a while, I got a job at another restaurant as there was too much drama at that restaurant, and I could make more money at this new place and wanted to go to college. But I continued to hang out with the people I met through the first restaurant. Gretchen and I went Christmas shopping together one day in the mall and took a break to eat lunch. That's when I accidentally got a glimpse of her Christmas present shopping list as she checked it off. She had high dollar values listed next to the name of all these high status, wealthy, good-looking, and cool people that I suddenly realized she was desperately trying to become good friends with. $100 here, $200 there, and then there was my name, supposedly her best friend, with $5 listed next to it. It instantly made my heart sink. I don't care about expensive gifts, but it made me realize how little she valued me with an actual dollar sign to prove it. Nobody owes me anything, but I'd already spent over $50 for her Christmas gift, and I felt like a schmuck, realizing that we weren't actually best friends and she saw me as someone to spend time with until better people came along. Among the names of her high-value people that she was desperate to become friends with, she was willing to spend all of her parents' money to try to win over was Chris, the guy that she introduced me to, that I was now seeing. She had $200 next to his name. I began to feel sick to my stomach. I didn't say anything to her, as I probably shouldn't have looked over at her list, as it wasn't meant for my eyes. But then something happened that really made my blood boil. She began to tell me how much she was in love with Chris, that she was sure he was her soulmate, that she thought about him every day, all day. If she had said even a fraction of this to me when she introduced him to me, there's no way I would have hooked up with him. I suddenly felt all kinds of emotions swirling around at once. Why had she withheld this information from me? And why was she telling me this now? I began to realize she had been using me to keep him around. Then she started going on and on about how she spent all night on the phone with him the night before, which I knew was a lie because he was with me. I sat there seething and beginning to hate her and finally interrupted her to say, "None of that is true. He wasn't on the phone with you last night." She got this look on her face that I'll never forget, instantly knowing and aware that I not only caught her in her Fantasyland delusional lie, but also knowing why I knew what he did the night before. She just sat there, looking into my face and me looking back at her. I relished the look of hate and betrayal that had come over her face. I gave it right back to her. You could tell that she never expected little, stupid, trashy me to betray her in this way. I was just going to be her lapdog, always there for her but with no friends or wants of my own. Friendship over. She told everyone from the restaurant about what an evil, backstabbing B-word, and a man stealing, there's a word here that means to sleep around with lots of guys, but I can't say it. It rhymes with bore. And what a man-stealing bore I was. And all of my friends from that job stopped contacting me. But you know what? F her and F them. In your shoes, I wouldn't have had an issue with the price tag listed next to my name. If you have a close friend, you generally feel like you don't have to spend a lot of money on them. And you shouldn't look at that and be like, oh, I have no value to them because she put $5 next to my name and $200 next to somebody who she thinks she's in love with. That being said, she did lie to you for some reason about this Chris thing, about how they were on the phone together, and immediately severed your friendship when she realized that there's something else going on. You know what you didn't answer here, OP, is if you're still dating Chris or not. Our next story is by Delicious Cookie 1997. That's a really old cookie. I'm sure it's not delicious anymore. Maybe you should consider asking next time instead of assuming. My sister, who's 24 female, got a dog for free. It is a gift my dad's friend offered her, and she wanted to get the dog and then be the dog's parent. However, she's training her, the dog, poorly. The dog is only 8 months old, but she is big. She often goes out with her friends and takes a long while to get back. She just assumes me, 26 male, or my older brother, who's 28 male, or even my parents will be there to babysit and take care of her. She never asks and just assumes. She is supposed to be serious in the first year of the dog. She should be training her instead of going out with her friends and keeping her dog waiting. This happened yesterday. My parents are out because my dad's cousin died, so they will be gone the whole weekend. Now, yesterday night, my sister decided to go out of the house at 10 p.m. and again assume I will take care of the dog. My older brother was out. She did not even ask me, hey, can you take care of the dog? She just thought I will always take care of the dog. Well, I was sleepy and there was no way I would let the dog sleep in my room because she keeps barking. I decided to just leave the dog in my sister's room and shut the door. My sister came back at 3 a.m. I woke up to use the restroom and heard a car arrived and realized it was my sister. Then she screamed when she opened the door. This morning, she got mad at me first after she woke up. What happened was the dog chewed on her pillows, blanket, and even peed on the carpet and the clothes. Her bed is ruined. She told me, why didn't you take care of her? I just told her, you know you should be with your dog all the time instead of staying away for hours. You can always see your friends for 1 or 2 hours, then leave and go back to your dog. All she said was, how do you know? You've never even owned a dog. I then reprimanded her, saying, well, stop assuming and just ask nicely. I might say no. I might say yes, but just ask me. Then she called Mom and tries to make it not her fault. Some people are dog people, some people are cat people, and a lot of people think, oh, pet, cute, I'm going to get one, and then they don't realize how much attention and care they need. You pretty much have to treat a cat and a dog like they're your child, or don't get one. If you don't have time to take a dog out every hour and to watch after them if they're sick and to make sure they get playtime and make sure they're out to pee, don't get one. And if they're just sitting in a room, they're not a stuffed toy. You can't just leave them at home for several hours every day. You can't just go partying with your friends. And you don't just pass the burden on to somebody else without saying anything. That being said, I generally do not think that a dog or a cat should be given as a gift unless somebody really truly wants one and shows all the proper signs of being a good dog or cat parent. She just wanted to be the dog's parent, but then she didn't treat the dog like it was her child. She treated it like it was a stuffed animal. Our stories for today have come to a close. Until we meet again, have a special day.